Welcome everyone, whether you are at home, somewhere else in the world, or at MIT, or in the Boston area. Of course, it's a strange way of doing this welcome reception, but we'll be doing the best that we can so that everyone feels equally at home here in LIDS, no matter where you are. So I'm not going to take a lot of time. I will just say a few words about the lab. And basically, we are proud that LIDS is the oldest lab at MIT in continuous existence. Although it did start with a different name, that was about 80 years ago. It was called the Servo Mechanism Lab, doing things like automatic control for various devices from radar and dealing with aircraft and so on. So it was founded just before World War II. It changed its name in the late 50s because electronics and computers came into the picture, and work continued again on radar, control, optimization, and all that. The lab was really transformed in the mid-70s, at which time, while we already had people doing control, we had people doing communications and networks joining the lab, joining forces. This was because of a realization that problems in control and problems in communications shared a lot of the same ways of thinking and the same mathematical technologies. And the name of the lab was established at that time in the mid-70s. And there was a lot of activity then. LIDS played a big role in establishing the field of modern control theory and leading it from theory all the way to implementation. The field of robust control owes a lot to MIT and LIDS. And together with all those fields, of course, there was also optimization and game theory that came in. Once you start thinking about designing a system, then of course you also want to optimize it. You also want to think about adversaries, and that's how optimization and game theory came in. And at the same time, of course, if you're controlling a system, you want to know what your system is doing. And in order to do that, you need methods from signal processing and the fields of filtering and estimation. Again, LIDS had a big presence in those fields. And then more recently, order of 5 years ago or so, IDSS was formed, the Institute for Data Systems and Society. And LIDS was a big integral part of getting that institute going, and it's still a big integral part of that. And as of a year or so, MIT has the College of Computing, and LIDS is one of the key core entities there. Actually, what we are doing in LIDS falls squarely into the center of gravity of the issues that the college is dealing. And I should also say that last November, we had an 80-year birthday celebration for the lab. We attracted lots and lots of good people. We heard our alums. For those of you who are interested, you can actually find it on the net. Maybe somebody can post the link on the chat so that it's lids80.mit.edu. All right, so you can get a lot more information and historical perspective about the lab. So now let me say a little more about what the lab is about. Our mission statement, so it kind of changed more recently. The older one was that we're doing research and education in the analytical, information, and decision sciences. This basically gives the message that we're taking information and using it to make decisions. And the word analytical is a code word that we do rely on math to a great extent. But times are changing, modern buzzwords are coming in. And so another way of putting it is that we have systems that do intelligent or seemingly intelligent things, but there's a science and art behind it. And the science and art are actually the analytical, information, and decision sciences. So we can highlight the end effect that we are designing and analyzing intelligent systems, but always using the same rigorous methods and insightful models. So this emphasis on a solid mathematical grounding is something that distinguishes LIDS. And because of that, I think it's fair to say that everyone in the lab shares some common mathematical grounding and things like probability and optimization and dynamical systems. So that creates a cohesion. So it's an intellectual cohesion. And also it's a reasonably small lab. okay, 100 plus students. By the standards of most universities, that would be considered maybe a large lab. But here at MIT, we have some giants around there. For example, you may know about CSAIL, which is almost 10 times as big. The good thing about our size is that it's sort of the optimal. It's big enough so that there's a lot of diversity of activity, many different research interests, but small enough so that people can share a common outlook, and that pretty much everyone within the lab is able to understand what everybody else in the lab is doing. And that's really important, and that makes LIDS an intellectually cozy place. Let me step back one more level and say what's our outlook. Out there in the world, we have physical systems, we have cars, electric generators, airplanes, what have you. We also have people and markets, and these are the social systems and infrastructures. And together with that, the other technology or piece that comes in is that thanks to our colleagues at MIT and everywhere else, these days we have extremely powerful computers that can do lots and lots of stuff. What's the stuff that they're doing? What are these computers doing? Basically, besides powerful computers, we also have lots of data and lots of information that's floating around. And pretty much anything interesting that's happening in the world is about taking that data and that information and translating it into decisions, making decisions, or controlling systems. How is that done? Well, our outlook is that you take the models and the information, you create models of what's going on around you, you make inferences about what's going around you, and then you use those to guide the decisions and control. And I'm coloring this piece up here on purpose in honey color, because that's where the honey is. You hear all those technological advances, all those startups, all those big companies. Deep inside them, there is a technology of this kind. There are mathematical and statistical methods that basically process information and use them to make decisions, control some kind of system, optimize revenue, accomplish certain goals, and all that. So that's where we are centered. And we're very happy to be in this place, which is maybe the center of the universe these days. Okay, I'm half joking, but it is really a most important area. And the way that we do our work is we start from some domains. We take motivation from there. I already said that we do math in this lab, but math is not our starting point. The starting point for any great research, even the most abstract research, is really from motivation from some domain in the real world. We take that motivation, we abstract the essence of an interesting problem, and then we use our toolbox, methods of various kinds, from system theory, optimization, control, probability, statistics, and all that. We use our favorite mathematical methods. In that process, we're having fun doing math, sometimes for its own sake, but the best research always closes the loop and causes impact. And we actually see that impact. There have been quite a few successful companies that have been spun off from LIDS people and that are making huge impacts in the outside world. So we do cherish all sides of this, both the math, but also the final impact. And for that reason, we draw motivation from the different domains. Now, if you think of domains as applied and methods as mathematical, that creates a spectrum. But the good thing about the LIDS is that different people are more applied, different people are more theoretical, so they cover different pieces of the spectrum, but there is an intersection. Everybody in LIDS can talk to each other, and that leads to kind of fruitful ways of seeing the world and approaching research and choosing research problems. So let me close by giving you a little bit of the landscape to look at LIDS in a different way. who are the people involved in LIDS? I'm going to show you the different principal investigators that are housed in our lab. So we have a number of people starting on the left, illustrious people who are maybe a little bit on the more mature side. There's a bunch of us who are heavily engaged in administration. Well, Munzer is the director of IDSS, and Aswas Daglar is the head of EECS. And then who are the soldiers on the street? There's a group of people who are in systems optimization and control. Actually, I should say that Professor Jad Babai should now be moved to this column there because he was just named the head of the civil and environmental engineering department. So he's starting on that role. So we have people, in any case, we have people that are dealing with systems and doing optimization, control, game theory. And the last row here are people who are focused on energy systems. We have the other field that I already mentioned since the 70s. LIDS has had a big presence in communications and networks, and we still have a critical mass doing great research in that area. And then what happened in the last few years is that we got a huge number of amazing researchers, most of them junior, pretty young, with just a couple of exceptions, who are working on the hot fields of the day and for many years to come. And these are the fields of data science, statistics, and machine learning. And close to that are the fields of using control in autonomous systems. So a very diverse group in terms of maybe approaches to research and tools and how experimental versus how theoretical they are, but they cover a big spectrum. So we think that LIDS has an amazing critical mass in these very important areas of the day. And I should say that many of the other people that I showed a little before, they're all drifting towards those hot topics. So for example, Professor Shah is moving from communications. Actually, he's doing more and more in the data science side these days, similarly. And the same applies more or less about everybody else. That is data science, statistics, learning how to use data in every type of context starts to permeate the work of everyone. So I just showed you the pictures. Your challenge now is to go to the website and actually match pictures with names. Even if you're matched already with an advisor, it's a good idea to know who everybody else in the lab is. Get the picture, the big picture of the activities that are happening. Of course, it's going to be challenging as long as we don't have face-to-face meetings and we have fewer opportunities to meet each other in the corridor. But at least let's everyone try to simulate that experience in the online world as much as possible. And so welcome everyone, and I trust that LIDS and MIT will be very enjoyable and gratifying experience, even if some fraction of it ends up happening online. But remember, graduate students are here for quite a few years, so maybe there's a rocky online start, but we'll be doing good in the near future, we hope. All right, thank you.